Hello again. Today I'd like to introduce you to the writing section of the SAT. There are technically 3 sections of writing on each SAT test. One of them is always the first section of the test, and it's the essay. You'll start each SAT by writing a 25-minute essay about a very broad topic. We'll talk more about that section in a separate video on the essay. The 2 other writing sections on the test cover grammar. One of them will be the last section on every test. It's section number 10 and is a 10-minute grammar section. The other section is a 35-question long, 25-minute grammar section. Both of these sections will test your knowledge of grammatical issues relating to verbs, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, and more. There are 3 types of questions that make up the 2 grammar sections on the test. Sentence correction questions ask you to fix an error in a sentence. Error identification questions ask you to simply identify an error within a sentence. And the last type of question, revision and context questions, ask you to read a very short and poorly written passage and fix some mistakes within it. Here are 4 good tips for every type of question on the writing sections. First of all, short answers are good. Short answers are often to the point and are not wordy, and these are good answers on the test. If you're down to 2 answers that basically mean the same thing, you should usually pick the shortest one. Next piece of advice, avoid ing verbs. Ing verbs are usually wrong on all types of questions on the writing section. Third one, sound like a Zen master here, but seek balance and consistency. It's a good thing if the beginning of a sentence matches the end of a sentence, if our verb tenses remain consistent, and if generally our sentences and paragraphs have a consistent, even sound and feel. The last piece of advice I would give you here is that the questions within the writing sections get harder as you go. The long writing section starts with 11 sentence correction questions that go in order of difficulty. After that, you'll see 18 error identification questions that are also arranged in terms of difficulty. So, in other words, when you get to the end of each question type, you can expect the questions to be hard. It's not just you. They actually are getting more difficult. Let's have a closer look at sentence correction questions. As you can see from this example, your job on a sentence correction question is to replace the underlined portion of the sentence with a better option from the answer choices. On these questions, answer A always repeats the original phrasing of the sentence. In other words, pick answer A if you think the original sentence is grammatically correct. 3 good tips for sentence correction questions for you. First of all, identify the error and eliminate any answer choices that repeat this error. If you're unable to identify the error after reading the original sentence, look for differences among the answer choices. If 2 answers are different, for instance, if they have different verb tenses, you'll know that possibly that's the error in the original sentence. And the thing that is being varied between the 2 answers, in this case verb tense, might be the difference between right and wrong. Number 3, look for short answers and find one without mistakes. As I mentioned a minute ago, short answers are often correct on this section. The main topics that show up under sentence correction questions are these: misplaced modifiers, parallelism, comparisons, sentence fragments, run-on sentences, and punctuation. We've got a video for each of those topics, so be sure to check those out as well. Here's an error identification question. You can see that 4 pieces of the sentence are underlined and labeled with answers, and then we've got an answer that says no error, which is always answer E. Our job is to find the part of the sentence that is grammatically incorrect. We don't need to fix it. We don't technically need to know why it's wrong. We just need to identify the mistake. If you feel that there's no mistake in the sentence, pick answer E. Here are a few essential tips for error identification. Watch for verbs. There are many wrong verbs on this type of question. Verb tense, subject-verb agreement, and ing verb issues are some of the things you can expect to see on the error identification questions. Also, don't be afraid of answer E. People either fall into one of 2 camps generally on these questions. A lot of students love to put E and put it way too much, and some people are afraid of E and never pick it. The truth is it'll show up about as much as all of the other answers. Third one, I've already mentioned it, but these things go in order of difficulty, so you can expect the last couple error identification questions to be very difficult. Here are the biggest topics that will show up on error identification questions: subject-verb agreement, verb tense, pronouns, idioms, and diction. The last type of question that will show up on the writing sections is called revision in context. The SAT will give you a short 2 to 3 paragraph long passage that's very poorly written. Your job is to answer 6 questions about how we can fix some of the sentences within the poorly written passage, or move some of these sentences around, or otherwise make the passage more grammatically correct. So, oftentimes students say that this is one of the easier parts of the writing section. It's very much like editing a paper, and basically you should try to follow your common sense. If it sounds good and makes sense within the paragraphs, oftentimes in revision in context, you've got the right answer. Couple essential tips for you here on revision in context. Really only one that's totally crucial. When they give you a sentence on these questions, you must look back at the paragraphs and read around that sentence. Oftentimes on revision in context questions, the test makers will repeat or rewrite the sentence in question under the question itself. And because of this, people won't look back and read the other necessary information that they need. But don't get lazy. Even if the sentence is rewritten for you, look back at the passage and read the surrounding sentences. I'd like to leave you with one last tip about the entire writing section on the SAT. That would be analyze, don't listen. What I mean is that there are only 15 grammatical issues that are tested on each SAT. And if you memorize them and are able to identify them in context of the writing questions, you will do much better. Many students make the mistake of listening to these sentences and picking the best choice based on what the sentences sound like. However, this is a very tricky and imprecise way to do these questions. If you memorize all 15 grammatical issues, you will be able to recognize them and you will do much better. Try to shift your approach on these questions from what sounds good to asking yourself, what are the specific grammatical issues in this sentence and which ones are incorrect? I know that might sound like a big challenge now, but if you check out all of our other videos about specific writing issues, I'm sure that will help you focus on the ones that you need help with. So happy studying, go get them, best of luck.